Hey everyone, it's Amanda with Love and Soap Studio. So this is actually a replay of a Facebook Live that we did in Saponification Nation, our soap making group. In it, I walk you through the process of making salt bars. So salt bars are a combination of sea salt and cold processed soap. And in the video, I explain to you what they are, why we make them, and then I actually show you how to make them. So this video isn't as polished as some of our other soap making videos because it is just a really informal Facebook Live, but I hope you enjoy it and that it helps you learn how to make salt bars. Enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, what is a salt bar? So you've probably heard the term salt bar, or some soap makers call them spa bars. And that's really just a marketing term people use. It makes it sound more decadent, more special, more spa-like, so that you can sell them for more money. Benjamin made salt bars in his store, and he sold them for, how much did you sell them for? $8 to $10 for a bar, and it was all because of the way he marketed it. So he marketed it as, a special thing. We also marketed them as like a facial bar because salt's really good on your face. And so typically a salt bar is a soap. It's a cold processed soap that is made with 50 to 100% of the oil weight in salt. And we'll talk more about what kind of salts you can use. So for example, if your salt bar recipe contains 32 ounces of oil, you would use 16 to 32 ounces of salt in weight, okay? So why on earth do you want to make one? So sea salt is purifying, it's drawing, and it acts as an astringent. But we had a lot of people with acne issues that use salt bars, and it helps with their acne. Now, of course, we can't tell people that as we're selling our products, but for personal use and for people that it can help with acne. Salt bars last forever in the shower. So they take a really long time to dissolve, which is a great selling point because we all want a bar of soap that lasts forever in the shower. So what I've experienced is that they typically last longer than a regular bar of soap. Okay, salt bars are super hard. People like a hard bar of soap in the shower. Salt bars are inexpensive to make. So typically a salt bar contains a really high amount of coconut oil, which is typically one of the cheaper oils that we use in soap making. And so it's not very expensive. And if you buy fine sea salts in bulk, that's not very expensive either. And so your finished product, it's not very expensive to make. And so your margins are going to be good because you can sometimes charge more for them. And then I already talked a bit about it, but you can market them as spa type or facial bars of soap. Customers love to hear the benefits of sea salt and will pay more money for special bars of soap. And so it's kind of a product that you can add to your line that is kind of special and different from your regular soap. Okay, so let's talk about what base oils we use in salt bars. So typically a high amount of coconut oil is used when making salt bars because salt kills lather. And so I personally use 80 to 100% coconut oil. So yes, I'll make a bar of soap with 100% coconut oil. And then what we do is we counteract that high amount of coconut oil with a high super fat. So what do we know about coconut oil? Coconut oil, especially 100%, can be quite drying to your skin. But combined with a high super fat, which again, I use 20%, it leaves 20% of your coconut oil unsaponified, so just free-floating oil, and it makes a really nice bar of soap, so it's not too drying. So someone said, but are they safe to use? Yeah, I use them all the time. I use them on my face, on my body. We have lots of people that have used them. It still dried the skin. I wonder what your super fat was. Did you do 20%? They also have to cure for a long time, so you have to make sure that they cure, or they can be a little drying on the skin. All right, so recipes high in coconut oil are great for salt bars. Okay, so Laura super fats her salt bars at 30%. That's great. I haven't gone that high before, but that would be really good to experiment with to see how high you could go and still have a nice bar of soap. And so let's see what else. Now, of course, with the coconut oil, you can combine different oils. Today, I'm using coconut oil and avocado oil. Some people will use coconut oil, maybe 80% coconut oil, 10% butter, and a 10% liquid oil, such as avocado or sunflower or something like that. How do they compare with brine bars? They're actually, to me, they're very similar to the brine bars. So for those that don't know, you can also make a salt brine where you dissolve the salt in your water instead of using granule salt. Okay, so to me, they're very similar because if you use fine sea salt, it's really smooth on your skin. You would think it's really exfoliating and scrubby, but as long as it's fine, I find that it's really smooth. A lot of people say that it's like bathing with a smooth river rock. So to me, it's very comparable. Now, if you use large grain salts in your salt bars, it will make a difference. All right, we'll talk about salts in just a minute. Okay, so super fats. Again, I do 20%. Laura did 30%. That would definitely be worth trying. Okay, just trying to read some of the comments here. Oops. Okay. All right, so let's talk about salt. So a lot of you have asked, what kind of salt can you use? The only type of salt that I've ever used is sea salt. Okay, now don't use dead sea salt. If you use dead sea salt, your soaps will be weepy. It has more minerals in it than regular sea salt, and so it does really weird things. So it makes a mushy, weepy bar of soap that never gets hard, or it gets nice and wet, and so you don't want that. So stay away from dead sea salt. So sea salt is what I use, and I use fine grain sea salt. So I get mine from Wholesale Supplies Plus, but you can also get it from a lot of health food stores. Size doesn't matter, but like I said, the fine grain sea salt is going to be more smooth on your skin, and the larger grain, is going to be more scratchy because it doesn't dissolve as well in the shower as you're using it. Another type of salt I like to use is pink Himalayan salt. So yeah, I like to use pink Himalayan salt as well, and you can get that from lots of suppliers. I get mine from Brambleberry. Okay, but the main thing is don't use dead sea salt. All right, so how much salt do you use? And I've kind of talked a little bit about that, but you can use pretty much any amount you want. Typically, for it to be a salt bar, soap makers will tell you use 50% to 100% of your oil amount. In the recipe I gave you today, I used 50% of my oils. So let me find, there's my recipe. So this is kind of a smaller recipe because we have a lot of new soap makers. I don't want you to make a big batch and not like them or something go wrong. So we only use, in this recipe, 16 ounces of oils. And so for my salt, I'm using 8 ounces of fine sea salt. Okay, so it's kind of a small recipe. It's going to make about 2 pounds of soap total because we add the oils plus the lye plus the water plus the salt, and we get about 30 ounces of soap. Okay. Another thing I briefly mentioned is that salt bars, to me, they do best when you use individual cavity molds. So they get hard really fast, and if you pour them into a loaf mold, you might miss the window in which you can cut it without it being crumbly. And so I don't even do loaf molds anymore. Some soap makers do, and they do a great job. They figured it out. To keep things simple, I use individual cavity molds, okay? Because sometimes if you make salt bars, it's ready to cut in like 4 hours, 4 to 6 hours, but there's a very small window. And if you miss it, then it can be crumbly. So that's just something to be aware of. Maybe try single cavity molds if you have some. So I've got my oils, and again, we're using 14 ounces coconut, 2 ounces avocado, and let me see what temperature we're at. So we're at about 75, so we're kind of at room temp. Got my lye ready to go, and that's going to be a little hotter. It's at 90, that's okay. And then I've got my fine sea salt weighed out and ready to go. Again, we're using that rose quartz from Brambleberry. And we're going to use this raspberry mica from Brambleberry to do a bit of a swirl. Sorry about my voice, you guys. I'm kind of coming off of a nasty virus. So the mold I'm using, again, it's easier to use single cavity molds. So this is, it's almost like a half egg shape. You can see it has a nice kind of dome shape, an oval. And I got this on Amazon, so I'll post the link to that, but I thought I'd use this today. And then as backup, I've got this kind of diamond mold. So if I have extra, which I might, then I'll pour into that and see how it works. So it's just a an ice cube mold from Amazon. So I think we are ready. Everything's ready to go.
You want me to start asking questions?
Yeah, if there's any questions,
sure.
Go ahead.
Tammy Kramer Vasquez says, if I don't have avocado, what could I replace it with?
You could use any liquid oil that you have. So if you have almond, if you have sunflower, safflower, pretty much anything, grapeseed, you can replace it with that, but you're going to need to run your recipe back through the lye calculator just because it might have a little bit of a different sap value. So I use soap calc. My favorite lye calculator is the Sage, but they don't go up to 20% super fat. So I do go back to soap calc for that, 20% super fat. And then for my water amount, I ignore the lye calculator and I just use 2 times my lye per water. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, if you substitute out anything, then you want to make sure you run it back through the lye calculator. Okay? Now again, if all you have is coconut oil, you can do 100% coconut oil. So you can do 16 ounces of coconut oil. But again, it's going to change your lye amount slightly. So be sure to run it back through. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add my fragrance. It smells so good, you guys. Let me put my goggles on. There they are. But it smells amazing, so I think it's going to be good. And the soap. Okay, so some people add their fragrance oil after trace. I just add it before because there's really no reason to wait. Okay, and then I'm adding my lye solution. Okay, I need to go rinse this out real quick. Benjamin can just look at that wheel. Just stand there shooting up the oil there.
So what kind of salt are you using?
I'm using 5 sea salt from Wholesale Supplies Plus.
Okay.
So no dead sea salt, you guys. All right, so I want to bring this to a kind of a light trace because I have a design plan. What I want to do is bring it to a light trace, pour a little bit out to color pink, and then add salt just to the main batter. And then as I'm pouring it in the mold, I'm hoping that I can get kind of a marbly effect by using the salt base and then unsalted base. We'll see what happens. I have no idea. See how it smells. It smells good.
Sophia is asking, is there a difference between adding your fragrance to the oils before or after mixing with the lye?
There's really not. There's really not a reason to wait to add it. And so I think a lot of soap makers these days add it to the oils. And the reason for that is, you know, then you won't forget it. Because have you ever made soap and then it's moving fast and gets thick and then you look over and, you know, your fragrance oil is sitting over there and you've already poured your soap in the mold. So it's just a way for you to remember it. Also, if you have finicky fragrance oils or essential oils, adding them to the oil before adding your lye solution dilutes it and it's less finicky to work with if it's a troublemaker. So it's kind of a way to soap with troublesome fragrances. You know, you don't want to get to trace and have it thick and then add a fragrance that accelerates because then it's just going to get too thick to do anything with. So it's perfectly fine to add it to your oils before adding your lye solution.
I don't know if there's any way to prove this, but I don't think that there's any discrepancy between scent, the strength of the scent, whether you do it before or after.
No, I don't think so either.
I think you're totally fine with it.
So you would think with all this coconut oil it would be really quick moving, but it's actually not too bad. Of course, we're soaping really cool. All right, so that's kind of just a nice, really light trace. It's just nice and emulsified. Now I'm going to pour some of this off to color to swirl with. Now you don't want to add your salt to such a thinly traced soap and pour in your mold. Otherwise your salt will just sink to the bottom. And so after I add my salt, I'm going to thicken it up to a thicker trace so that it holds the salt suspended. Okay? But at the moment, I'm just going to pour a little off to color pink. And I don't want a whole lot because I just want to marble with it a bit and not swirl too much. So that's probably 1/8 of a cup maybe. And then I'm going to add some pink. Probably 1/4 teaspoon.
What were your temperatures for oils in solution?
I believe I was 90 with the lye solution and 75 with the oils.
Pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah, the hotter you soap, the faster it moves. And so soaping cooler definitely helps things slow down. Okay, so I think that is perfect. And it's still nice and fluid. It's not thick at all. The other cool thing about salt bars is it makes a really white base, and so it holds color well. So normally soap is kind of creamish, but with this, it's really nice and light. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and dump my salt in, and then mix it to a thicker trace. So now we're nice and thick. You can clearly see trace at this point. And that's going to be good because my salt isn't just going to fall down to the bottom. All right. So now it is time to pour it into the mold. All right, so I could do an in the pot swirl with it, but I don't know, I kind of want to get a more marbled look, and sometimes that can muddy it up too much. So I'm going to try, I'm just going to try a few things and see how it works. I'm thinking if I do like a double pour type of thing, it might make it more marbled. Kind of that kind of thing.
Corey's saying it's helpful if you make a lot of salt bars to have a dedicated stick blender because the salt tends to really dull the blade.
Oh, good tip. All right, I'll fix that. Don't worry about that. Now, I intentionally didn't put salt in this pink part because sometimes the salt can dull the color, and I wanted this pink to be nice and bright. So we'll see how it turns out. Ooh, that was a good one.
That middle one.
This one?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. All right, so let me fix a few of these. All right, so I do have a little left over. So I'm just gonna do like a in the pot swirl type of thing and pour it into these diamond molds, and we'll see what that looks like tomorrow. I feel like I should have done a lighter pink just because it's rose quartz, but that's okay. It'll look good. Okay. This.
Whoa.
Yeah. Thanks for being cameraman.
Of course.
Wouldn't have been able to do that.
Thanks for making me soap.
You like the rose quartz?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right, so I think that is probably good. All right, so I'm actually really excited about these. See what they look like.